Okay, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today with Elliot Compton, kickboxer, MMA fighter, martial artist. How are you, bro?
I'm good, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming, but here we are.
That's it, man. Man, I wanted to get a little bit on your background. I mean, I've followed you here and there. I saw you fight on Cage Muay Thai. I've seen you fight MMA. I've seen you fight kickboxing in ONE FC. What's your sort of history in MMA, kickboxing, everything? In a rough sort of ball.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a lengthy history, so I'll keep it as quick as I can. Basically, I started training under my dad when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and that was kind of where it started. And then I just continued to progress, and then I started fighting at 19. I fought in Thailand. My first few fights were actually in Thailand at proper Thai stadiums. You know, not like some of the stadiums we see today. You know, these were legit proper stadiums. And I took a couple of beatings and won some and absolutely loved it. And then that was it, man. I never set out to have a career in professional fighting. I just wanted to tick the bucket list sort of stuff, you know. And then I just absolutely fell in love. My original plan was originally to fight MMA, but the time that I spent in Thailand, I fell in love with the culture of Muay Thai and Thai culture in general. And I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go down this rabbit hole for a while. And then fast forward into, I think it was like 13 or 14 years into my career, then I finally ventured across and fought MMA on Beatdown Promotions for Damo. But I've been training MMA my whole life, my whole career. You know, like all these guys that you see getting around the place today, they're all coached by my dad back in the day. He was, you know, one of the very first MMA coaches in this country. You know, I remember sitting cage side at the very first ever caged event in this country. You know, I trained under some of the best fighters that this country had ever produced, you know. And you know, I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since even before I was striking, really, you know. So it just kind of was like a natural thing that, you know, once I parted ways with ONE after, you know, I'd fought literally all over the world, eventually signed with ONE, won all these belts and everything else, that I decided I wanted something fresh. I wanted a new challenge, and not that there was no more challenges left for me in Muay Thai by any stretch. You know, there's still loads of opportunities for me there, but I just felt like I wanted to do something different, and I ventured into the MMA world, and here we are now. You know, I'm kind of like flipping between the two a little bit.
Yeah, man. No, it sounds awesome, man. Just out of interest, your dad, Steve Compton, he started training when you were 5. What did you start in? Did you start in just like general stuff, or you actually training specific, or?
Nah, just like general stuff, you know, like almost just like kids class type stuff, you know. A little bit more serious than what a lot of the kids classes that I see today were. But it was like basically a mix of just like a bit of boxing, kickboxing, a bit of taekwondo, bit of jiu-jitsu, a bit of the Filipino martial arts, just kind of all blended into one syllabus, you know. And then that's kind of where it started. And then eventually we kind of found our niche as we went, you know.
Yeah. I'm asking because I've got a couple of little kids. I'm training my kids, and I just wanted to know, like, when did you start sort of kicking off, like, seriously with it? Like, when did you feel like you actually kind of fight seriously, you know? Because kids kind of playing for a couple of years usually, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, man. I think I was a different kettle of fish in that regard because, like I said, I never ever planned on even really being a fighter. You know, my plan wasn't to fight. You know, and then so like I'd actually had a trip planned to the US to go on like a training trip with my old man, and then due to different things outside of our control, we ended up going to Thailand instead. And when I was in Thailand, I got asked to have a fight, and I thought, you know what, when in Rome, you know, like what a cool opportunity, and I did it, and then I just fell in love with it, and that was it. So I mean, I always trained seriously, even from when I was a kid, always. But I think, like, particularly, like, from, like, my teenage years is when I really kind of, like, came into myself in terms of hard sparring and, you know, like, as hard as you can as a teenager, you know what I mean? I mean, I remember training with, like, being the main training partners for some of the Australian MMA champions back when I was, like, 15 years old, when there was, like, no one else really getting around, you know what I mean? This is back.
Who was it? Out of interest, have you got any names? Any names?
Yeah, man, for sure. You know, like back, like guys like I used to train with Adrian Pang and Colin Noak, all those guys way back in the day. Yeah. Man, and those guys are some of the best fighters that this country's ever seen. You know, especially in that era too. So I kind of went through all that and just stuck to my guns on what I wanted to do in terms of Thai boxing. And then I think that was it. You know, I think that's kind of like to answer the question in the roundabout way is I just decided that I wanted to just kind of just see where I ended up, just tick the bucket list and before I knew it, I was like neck deep in a career, you know, which I love. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Like I don't regret
Yeah.
any single second of it. This has been the most rewarding experience, like having the career that I've had so far and doing the things that I've done. I wouldn't change it for the world, you know.
Yeah, something that always pops into my head is, do you know Cameron Rouston? You know him at all, Cam Rouston?
Yeah.
Aussie guy fighting out of CKB. And
Yeah.
he said he loves his job, like wake up every morning, just has to put on some shorts and some flip-flops or whatever, thongs, and cruising to work, no uniform, no nothing. Like, it's kind of a good, he said, and just banter with your mates all day. That's kind of the way he put it. So, like, it's a cool job if you love that as a lifestyle, right?
Yeah, of course, man. It's hard to beat, you know. Like for me, I've always been a trainer as well, so like it hasn't been quite that cruisy for me. You know, I'm in the gym most mornings from 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning, all the way throughout the year. You know, I hold pads for all the guys. I have like my own list of clients. I've got multiple kind of like income streams through martial arts that I do, which is really cool. I mean, it's still a hustle no matter what, but man, like I'd much prefer to hustle in the gym than I would out on the building site with a jackhammer. I could tell you that much.
That's true, man, for sure. Like working, for me, just being working for companies for my whole life, man, it'd be nice to kind of be your own master or working in something like that, you know. But yeah, it is what it is. Some of us have to, someone has to do all the other jobs around the place too, right?
Yeah, of course, bro, 100%. That's it.
Yeah. Bro, what sort of gyms have you trained at through your career? Like, obviously, you've got your own. What's it called? Your gym now? It's called Compton Training
Team
Centre.
Compton Training Centre. Yeah.
Yeah, Compton Training Centre.
Yeah, man.
I saw you're wearing a CMB T-shirt, so you're training a bit with them before as well, right?
Yeah, I've trained a bit at CMBT. You know, when they first opened up down in Varsity Lakes, there we were there. We kind of helped that out a bit. And
trained a bit with John Wayne Pass or that as well, yeah?
Yeah, man, I've trained with John Wayne. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear this music coming through the background. The boys are getting into some
I can't
wrestle
hear
now.
it, bro.
Sorry, I hope that's not too bad. Okay, cool, sweet. Yeah, you know, I've sparred with John Wayne for the best part of 10 years, you know. Obviously, I had time in integrated MMA. Around the world, I've trained multiple gyms throughout Thailand. I've trained right through the US. You know, I trained at Church Street Boxing, Gleason's Boxing Gym. I lived in Biloxi, Mississippi, working with Alan Belcher for a few months back in like 2008.
Nice.
I've spent a lot of time at Ruka, you know, Ruka Training Centre in Costa Mesa with Coach Brillo and Coach Bryce and Javier DeSantos, all those guys, which was, man, that was one of the coolest gyms that I've ever been in. You know, the thing that I love about that gym is everybody in that room has achieved like really, really crazy things, right? So there's no ego. There's no like trying to prove themselves to anybody anymore. I mean, the gym's shut down now for different reasons, whatever, but at the time, everybody was just there to train and get better. No one cared who did what or whatever. And man, it was a really refreshing experience. You know, other gyms that I trained at, particularly in the US, it wasn't like that. You know, it was like you walk in and it was like you get shark tanked on your first day stepping in the gym to see, all right, is this guy a threat? You know what I mean? And you know, like, man, I'm really grateful for the time that I had there. You know, and obviously training at Team Compton, like my gym here in Brisbane, obviously my dad and I have trained together forever. And I feel like we've kind of built a very similar culture to that in our gym too, you know.
Awesome.
I mean, at any given time, there's a bunch of killers on the mat here at any hour of the day, which I think is really cool and a testament to the hard work that particularly my dad has put in over the years to build the team of fighters that we have. And I'm grateful for that. It's cool.
No, that's nice, man, and it's great to hear like all the experience that you've got. Like your guys are so lucky that they can draw from that, man. Because you've been everywhere. I didn't realize you trained at all those places, so that's pretty good. Like, because you can bring all that experience back and teach your up and comers, right?
Yeah, of course, man. I think like it's important to travel as an athlete too, and as a fighter. You know, I think it's good to have a home base. I don't think, you know, I think there was a train of thought going back a while that if you ever wanted to make it in combat sports, then you could never do it on home soil here in Australia. I think that is so far-fetched and so not true. But I think particularly when you're younger, it's good to get out and spread your wings and experience new things and try different gyms and meet new people and see ways that different people train, but then bring it back to home base and take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from here, and eventually you'll find your own way of doing things that suits you the best. And I mean, that's what this whole thing's about, right? Take from other places and add what's your own and try and, you know, like further improve things so then like the next generation has the same thing moving forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only thing I can say about that, bro, is the only thing that naturally Australia and New Zealand don't have as much as the wrestling, which everyone knows. Like, we don't have that thick base of wrestling. And our fighters generally, they might be good at defense, they might be good at the basics of wrestling, but there's no guys that rely just on their wrestling mostly. So that's the only thing that could probably grow in time, because everyone's pumping the wrestling over the last, what would be, decade or so. So that's the only area I would say that we don't really have any guys that are dominant in just wrestling as their specialty. They don't need to be, but that's just something that we're not producing, right?
No, I agree with that. But then you look at guys like Volkanovski, for example, goes out and fights Chad Mendez, who's an All-American, and out wrestles him. It's crazy how that works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is cool.
We can be
too,
competitive in it, right? We can be competitive in it, right? But we just don't have that base that some of the other countries have, whereas we have a good stand-up base that maybe some of the other countries don't have. Yeah. Anyway.
Agreed, 100%.
And bro, talking about the knowledge you're bringing back for your students, a big fan of Don Marfan, Tom Nolan, bro. These guys, can you talk on them at all?
Yeah, man, for sure. Those guys are the future, you know. Like, Tom's obviously already signed to the UFC and, you know, coming off a big win a couple of weeks back in Vegas against Victor Martinez. And I think his next performance is going to be even better again, you know. Obviously, things didn't go his way on his debut, and I think he learnt a lot from that and grew. And then I think the confidence that he gained in that last fight, like those two together, is going to just create like the perfect storm for this next fight in Perth on 305. Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
He's fighting Dom, in Perth, of course. Bro.
Yeah, Tom's booked for Perth against the name, I can't remember the guy's name right now. I think it's Alex Reyes. Dominic Reyes' younger brother, so awesome. And then as for Dom, man, like Dom's an absolute killer, you know. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see how good he can be in that last fight against Quillen. I mean, Quillen's the man. Quillen knew exactly what to do to try and shut Dom down, and he did a phenomenal job at that, you know. So hats off to him. But I think same thing for Dom. When you look at in history, the fights that he's had that haven't gone his way, historically he's always turned it around and used it as an opportunity to grow and better himself. And man, I'm actually really proud of the work that Dom has done on himself and everything else in his camp in this last little while, preparing for Tim Rogers on Eternal next weekend. And I'm excited for Dom to showcase the Street Buddha 2.0, you know, like, and I think the few things were kind of missing in his camp, you know, on his own end. I think he's managed to, like, I don't want to talk too much about his personal business, but I think he's done a really, really good job of dialing that in really well now. And I think he's going to absolutely showcase that next weekend. And, you know, like, it's only a matter of time till we see him in the UFC as well. I strongly believe that's where he's destined to be. Yeah, he's had a hiccup recently, but in the grand scheme of things, the kid's 23 years old. And, you know, like, he's not even close to his prime yet. And look how awesome he is, you know. So for sure, man, those two are absolutely awesome. But we got a whole team of killers here, man. Those guys are probably the front runners at the moment for sure. But I mean, we got some of these young amateurs coming through, bro. Like, you wait till you see them kind of burst onto the scene a little bit. They are absolute studs too. So I'm excited for the next few years, man. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Man, if any of them want to have a chat one day, any of the up-and-comers that are doing well, bro, send them over.
100%, bro, for sure. Cool. I'll link you up, definitely.
Yeah, cool. And, man, Dom, I'm impressed with Dom, man. He's a good guy, and I've just been talking to him on and off over the last maybe year or two, and he's growing just as a fighter and a person. Like, he's pretty cool. I like him as a person and a fighter, but I really want to see him win that fight, bro, just for the fact that the previous fight he was unwell when he fought Quillen, and then I was expecting big things, bro, and just did it good in the first round, but just got shut down, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. It is what it is. That's the fight game, right? We've all had fights that, you know, we're absolutely convinced that on paper, like, it's easy. Nothing's ever easy money, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I know I've got this is it, and then it just doesn't go to plan. You know, it's 50-50 anytime you step in there, even if the odds are 100-1 when that cage door locks, it's still a 50-50, you know. So but you know, like I said, he's taken it on board. He knows what went wrong, like in his own mind and everything else, and he's fixed it. And I guarantee you'll see another run from Dom now.
Nice. And Tom Nolan, bro, that last fight I was a bit scared for a second, bro. He kind of lives and dies by the sword, right? He got cracked and kind of half dropped and that. But he's a very exciting fighter, man, and kind of shades of Corey Sandhagen in there as well, bro. He's looking very good. I'm looking forward to that. And I didn't know he's fighting on UFC Perth. I'm actually going over there, so that's sick. I get to watch him fight live.
Awesome. Yeah, cool, man. He that's what got him to the UFC at 6 fights. You know, like it's every time he gets in there, he leaves it in there. It's like it's like it's either I'm going to knock you out or I'm going to get clipped myself. You know, and that's what makes him so exciting. And going after the big fights on home soil before he signed to the UFC and fighting those fights the same way is what got him noticed by the UFC in the first place. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's always you're always going to be on the edge of your seat with Tom. I guarantee you that.
True. Man, onto your training, bro. How do you train these days? What do you break down for your own training? It must be hard to schedule it all in, but what do you actually do?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty good. You know, like I said, I'm in the gym from 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning every day.
Yeah.
So when I'm not in camp these days, I don't run the same amount that I used to run out of camp. I focus a bit more now on more skill acquisition and just a little bit less impact on the body. You know, I've had 65 fights, man, so I've got to be a bit more mindful about what I'm doing in terms of impact on the body. You know, but otherwise, man, I feel really good. You know, I train at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock every single day. You know, that'll consist of sparring rounds, pad rounds, a strength and condition twice a week. We wrestle. I do jiu-jitsu 4 times a week. Wrestle at minimum of 3 times a week. And then, man, obviously I still strike every single day. So, man, I've got a pretty hectic schedule, even considering I still hold pads for all the guys, like me and my old man, we hold pads for all the guys. I've got a whole list of clients that I have, you know, but I love it, man. And it's like when you love something, you'll always find a way to make it work. You know what I mean? Then when I'm in camp, obviously I prioritize training a lot more than I do out of camp. But there's never a point really, unless I'm riddled with sickness, there's never a point that I'm not on the mats training. And if I'm riddled with sickness, I'm not on the mats training, I'm still at the gym watching and picking up on everything, you know? So I kind of pretty much, man, to answer your question in a long-winded way, I pretty much just train the way that I've always trained, you know? Like I said, I've dropped back a little bit on the running and replaced that with more sprints on the air line and all that sort of stuff out of camp. But generally, I train the same way I've always trained. I get in, I get it done. You know what I mean? It's kind of for me, it's also about mental resilience too. So the days that you don't feel like doing it, there's definitely days I don't feel like doing it. I've got a business, I've got a family, you know, I have sleepless nights, but that's part of the mental resilience that it takes to be a fighter and to be a champion. You know what I mean? You don't win belts on the days that you don't feel like not showing up. You know what I mean? You win belts by showing up on the days that everything hurts. Your nose is busted. You're tired. You didn't get sleep. You're under eating or whatever it is, and you show up and you get it done. That's what breeds champions. I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of science these days that would say, well, that's not true. And that's 100% true too. I agree with that. But there's got to be a pinch of both in this mix. You know what I mean? You've got to be able to know when to follow the scientific route, and you've got to know when to follow for lack of a better word, the bro science route, where it's like, you know what, man, you're being a bitch today. Put your gloves on and get this shit done. You know what I mean? Like that's the essence of fighting, right? Like there's always going to be times
you can't
feel like a bitch and you got to get it done. That's it, you know?
You gotta have that resilience and you gotta have that drive, or you're never going to be successful as a fighter for sure. Like there's something in it. You can't just follow the science, and you can't just follow you got to actually build up the heart as well. It's a big part of it, right? Yeah,
of course.
Amen. And as the leader, one of the leaders of your gym, along with your dad, you have to demonstrate what people should be doing as well, right? You have to lead by example, and if you don't do that, 100%. Then who the fuck is going to respect what you say and follow you, right? Yeah.
Exactly. How do I yell at the amateurs for taking a day off because they're tired when they're like, well, bro, you haven't trained at all this week? Whereas they see me coming in, I haven't slept, I've got my daughter's sick, whatever it is, you know, I've been here since 6 o'clock in the morning, I've had back-to-back clients, my body hurts from holding pads, and I still step on the mats and get it done and still put a pace on. Do you know what I mean? That's the example that we got to set, you know? And of course, you got to listen to the body, you got to know times when to tap out and whatever else. I get all that shit for sure. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to show up and get it done. It might not be pretty, it might not be your best performance, but as long as you're giving 100% of what you've got, whatever that may be, that might be 5% of the 100% that you had on Monday, but as long as you're giving 100%, then you're going to make some gains. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a funny thing, man. Like training, getting up early in the morning is part of my routine for decades too. And to be, honestly, 99 out of 100 times, I'm fighting myself for every time the alarm goes off. I say to myself, what can you do to get out of this? Can you just sleep in, whatever? And it's thing. What do you do to motivate yourself, bro? Like, because you're very motivated. What do you say to yourself to just push through everything?
Bro, particularly if I'm in fight camp, so like majority of my fight career, I got up and ran at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning without fail, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just say to myself, if you're not doing it, he's doing it. Yeah. And that's enough for me to be like, oh man, there's no way I'm letting this dude do more than I am. You know what I mean? But I also would see it as like karma would get me. It's like it's kind of messed up, right? I'd be like, fuck, if I don't do this, then like I'm gonna be punished for this on fight night, and I'm gonna lose. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just completely backwards. But at the end of the day, that's what would motivate me and get up. Like, nah, I have to tick every single box because this is probably as much about discipline and about routine than it is about anything else. So for me, it was like making sure I won that mental battle well ahead of the fight, you know, like, and then when the fight rolled around and I stepped in there, I would know how much I sacrificed and how hard I did it to be there. And to take that away from me, you're going to have to kill me, you know?
Yeah. I mentioned this recently. I don't know if have you heard of a guy called Paul Grimer from Sydney, from Muay Thai a long time ago, on the early days. Yep. I remember him talking about sleeping.
Man, used to train with him back in the day.
Yeah, I trained with him too. I fought half under him one time. I remember him saying he'd sleep in the ring, like away from his family and everything, sleep in the ring because he built that up that he was just so pissed off at the guy for making him be away from his family and everything, and that was the motivation for him. You know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
bro. The last thing, bro. What's your plans, bro? Obviously, you're deep in training people as well. You're 35. What's your plans for the the last part of your career?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a good question. It's actually a question a lot of people don't really tend to ask me. They always ask me about what I've done, not what I want to do. It's just really cool that you picked up on that. For me, man, I'm at a point in my career where, like, I've still got years ahead of me. My body feels good. Everything feels good. You know, I had a hiccup in my last fight. There's another whole backstory to that, not to make excuses, but it is what it is. Let's not get into it. Man, I feel like I've got plenty left to give, you know, but I'm not going to waste it on like bullshit that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So for me, I want the fights that excite me, the fights that make sense, the fights that interest me is a big part as well. And I want to enjoy what I do, you know, like I've always enjoyed what I do, and I don't want any outside pressure or anything from anybody to make me want to have to do things that I don't want to do, or, you know what I mean? For me, it's about making sure that, you know, like it's about legacy for me now, to be honest, you know. Like I said, I'm 35 years old. I definitely don't have the time left in the sport that I've had. So it's about making it count and going for quality fights, which I've always done my whole career anyway. I've never been a guy to just punch numbers and fight anybody. I've always been the guy that will fight the best guys, and that's what I wanted. You know what I mean? I've never, ever really, very rarely have I had fights where, like, I'm the favorite. I'm normally the underdog going into pretty much every single fight that I've had, and that's how I love it. That's how I thrive. I like the pressure, like, builds me, you know? So pretty much that's it for me, man. You know, I want fights that excite me. I want to do things that are different. I want to fight good guys, test my skills, test myself, and stamp my legacy a little bit more, man. Under whatever rule set that may be. You know, if it interests me, then I'll do it. If it doesn't, then I won't. That's kind of it for me. You know, I think I said this the other day to somebody. There's so much pressure, particularly now on this younger generation of fighter that, you know, oh, you've got to be in the UFC by this amount of fights, and this guy got there before you, and he did this and he did that, and it's like, yeah, man, that shit's all cool, and it's good to be a record breaker and everything else, but at the end of the day, you can't not enjoy what you do because of those outside factors. You know, like it's important that, man, trust me, man, this shit is over before you know it. You got all the time in the world, but it goes like that, man. You know, and if you don't enjoy it and you don't take the moment, and it's so cliche. I know every coach says it, and like my old man used to say it to me. And when I was younger, I used to think, oh yeah, whatever. I read that on Instagram too. But man, it's real. Like if you don't enjoy the journey, when you get to the destination, it ain't worth shit. You know what I mean? Like these belts are cool. Like everything, like all the accolades that I've got are cool. But the things that mean the most to me are the memories that I have, the friendships that I've had, the relationships that I've built, and the people that I've inspired along the way. That means way more to me than any of this hardware behind me. And if you allow yourself to just focus on the destination, so you get so tunnel vision, and you kind of like don't take time to sniff the roses and appreciate what it is that you've actually done to this point. When you get there, it's not going to have the same meaning because you haven't had the time to reflect on what it's taken to get there, the sacrifices that you've made, the sacrifices that your family's made, everybody around you have made to achieve this goal. You know, like, appreciate it for what it is. I mean, this is sport. We love this. We like this everything that we wish for. So why not enjoy it and take time to embrace what it is that you're actually doing? Because I tell you what, man, there are millions and millions of people sat behind a computer desk in a shit office somewhere working a shit job, wishing that they had the courage to live the life that we live. So we need to be mindful of being grateful for what we get to do and also enjoying what we get to do every single day.
That's true, man. That's a lesson for everyone. Being present is really the key lesson. For me, that applies to you, bro, but it also applies to those of us that work regular jobs too, bro, because you can be present and you can enjoy the small things, appreciate the time you do get to train, appreciate everything around you, like not looking at the money, the retirement goals, all this shit, just enjoy the now, right?
100%, man. And like I said, not to say there's anything wrong with working a desk job, man. If that's what you want to do and you love it, and you just want to train in the afternoons for recreation, that's 100% true. The sport needs those guys as much as we need the superstars, 100% for everything to grow. But at the end of the day, you have to enjoy it for why you do it. So if you do it because you love working a 9-to-5 job and you just do it to be fit and to have friends, then make sure you enjoy it for that reason. If you do it because you want to be the best in the world, enjoy it for that reason. Don't put that too much stress on yourself, you know, and wake up one day and go, oh, yeah, cool, I've got a perfect record, but that's all I've got. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's cool, but like it doesn't mean shit at the end of the day. You know, people won't remember what you do. They'll remember how you made them feel and the experiences that they had with you. You know what I mean? And that goes for yourself as well, you know?
One small thing that gets to me, bro, like that, everything you're saying, I 100% agree with it. Just one thing that gets me a little bit, I talk to heaps of fighters, and a lot of them, the guys from Australia and New Zealand, where they travel to, let's say, Las Vegas or something to fight, and then the next day they fucking fly home. It's like, relax, boys. You're probably not going to train hard for the next week. Take a week and just have a look around this country. Like, for me, I don't know why people don't do that when they fight in another country. Just give yourself a couple extra days just to experience it, because, like you said, that's the memories you want to have when you're finished. You're not fighting anymore. You remember looking around the world and meeting people and training in gyms over there or whatever, you know.
Man, absolutely. I've fought in places that most people would never even dream of visiting, and I've gone out to see not just the city or like the area, but the culture, the way that people live. For me, like, I'd much prefer to see that stuff than see like the sightseeing shit that you get to do at media day and whatever else. You know, and get out there and immerse yourself in the culture and see how other people live. Because, like I said, man, they're the memories. You know, people remember the fights, for sure. But at the end of the day, it's the memories that. Yeah. Man, I've got some wild stories that I can tell my daughter that she just looks at me and goes, "You're an absolute animal. You're an idiot. Why would you do that?" You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's cool at the same time. You know what I mean? So it's man, it's important to focus on that. I agree with you 100%.
Awesome. All right, man. Thanks so much for your time. It's great to finally catch you, and look forward to seeing you in action again, and then look forward to the success of your students and your gym as well, bro.
Thank you, man. Pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, man.